Hello, this is my Commedia dell'arte presentation. Alright, so Commedia dell'arte has influenced so much theater in the world and different types of arts. So Commedia has influenced like different playwrights like Shakespeare, Festi, deeply influenced by Commedia. And you also have Freddie Mercury, his Harlequin suit, and just like a bunch of different types of art. It's like such a cornerstone in Commedia and in theater and different art. So I'll discuss that throughout. I'm going to cover the convention of physicality in Arlecchino, and I'm going to highlight a moment of Arlecchino in a play called A Servant of Two Masters, and then I'll, after telling you all about the history and inspirations of and by Commedia dell'arte, I'm going to highlight what I've learned and what I can take away and relate it to Jacques Lecoq's style of movement and theater. So, alright, so the story of Commedia dell'arte. So Commedia was developed during the Italian Renaissance. So the Italian Renaissance was such a time of change in Italy. So you go from streets medieval, people having to worry about survival, to streets of marble and different developments and a bunch of different types of art, which allowed for Commedia dell'arte to rise. So you have paintings and painters like Leonardo da Vinci. You have statues like David, and you have different types of architecture that are just beautiful and still admired to this day. So it was really just a time that allowed people to focus on something more human than just living. You wouldn't have to worry so much, and you could be clean and it was a really cool time, and so many interesting things came out of it. So it was cool. Alright, so much is influenced by Commedia dell'arte, and some prime examples in modern art are shows like Friends. The characters Ross and Rachel are very much based, or very similar to at least the Innamorate. And so when you think of Ross, you think of Rachel, and vice versa. They're known for their love story that drives most of the plot in the show. Mm-hmm. So and it's very similar to the Innamorati. And then there's also characters like House from House MD, who's the Dottore. He has so much knowledge in his head, but he's not very smart at working out how people work. He has to figure out logic most of the time when it comes to people. So he's this character that's conveyed as so intelligent, but also doesn't know much, which is very much very similar to Dottore and Commedia, which I'll cover a little bit more later. Alright, so the origins of Commedia dell'arte. So Commedia really developed in street theaters and literary societies. So it really merged classes together, which goes again with arts improving people's lives. So you have people brought together through an art form. You had different troupes of Commedia actors. So Commedia troupes would be run democratically, and everyone would get paid, unlike what has happened a lot before with actors. Then you also have women who are allowed to act now. That's a good thing. Which is pretty much unheard of before Commedia, which is excellent. And even much later, it's only developed in countries like England. But it's really interesting the different developments from the origin of Commedia coming from streets and from literary societies. So it's really cool. Alright, so stock characters in Commedia dell'arte. So this is a huge thing. So a huge part of Commedia dell'arte is the characters that are developed and then put into different types of art. So you have characters like Magnifico, who's at the top, is top of society, who represents rulers and stuff. So you have Magnifico, who's this typically evil person who's said that if he died they're just like another Magnifico would pop up. And then you have at the very bottom the Zani, which is my favorite, because he's just so silly and illogical and dumb but curious and like quick moving, and he has like very distinct and like fast and weird personality. And you have different like characters like derived from these two. So at the very top with Magnifico are like the masters, or like the leaders. So you have the Dottore, which is who I talked about before. He's very like a silly character because he has so much knowledge in his head. He's always like spouting about what he knows, but like he's not very smart. He doesn't like understand any of it. He just like knows things. And you also have Pantalone, who's like he's also like high society, but he's very evil, like gravelly, and like he's like, I don't, like the best description is like crusty, like he's gross. Like I don't really like him very much. But then characters derived from Zani are Brigella, who's cunning, and she's always like looking for like a higher position and keeping the position that she has. She's always looking for what's in for herself. And then there is Arlecchino, what I'm doing my convention on, who's like this acrobatic, not very logical, but always like looking for immediate like attention and like whatever he wants in the moment, that's what he's gonna go for. And you'll see it like through his big emotions that he feels with his body, and he's like acrobatic and everything. So, alright. So Arlecchino's physicality. I'm just gonna dive into this a little bit more. So like there are so many like different like influential Arlecchino actors. He's always doing like these huge jumps and like bounds, and he's always like dancing all over the place. He can like, from 1 second he can be like ecstatically happy, and he'll show you that with his body, and then he'll be like sad, he's on the floor and he's like growling and making different like high pitched noises, but also like, he's all over the place consistently emotionally, and he shows that through his body, which is also developed through his mask, because an actor wearing a mask can't like show a lot of emotion. He has to like, the actor has to show Arlecchino's like personality through his body movements, and sometimes through his noises that he makes. A lot of them aren't even scripted, they're just weird. So yeah. Alright, how did I practice this convention? Alright, so I spent like a lot of time watching different people like take on the Arlecchino like role. I watched like many videos on YouTube of different like parts of Arlecchino plays. There's one specific one that I liked, and I practiced it, and there's a picture of it later. But there's an invisible wall that Arlecchino wants to see on the other side of, so he has to like try and get through, like pull his hands in, he gets his hands stuck, he's like jumping all over the place trying to get through, and he's like making weird noises like, oh yeah, like he's just such a weird and silly character. So I practiced that, just like going through that with understanding the character in like my best way and possible, and then like improving with what I would do in that situation. So not necessarily copying everything that person did, but like bringing my own interpretation to it, which is another huge thing in media. Alright, so a servant of two masters, okay? So this is a very complex plot play, but so there is Clarice, who was going to marry Senor Federico, and he died, got run through with a sword. And so she's like, oh cool, I can marry Silvio now. And she actually wanted to marry Silvio the whole time, but she was arranged to marry Federico. So she's all happy with that, and then Truffaldino comes in, which is Arlecchino, and he says, oh, actually, Federico's not dead, you can marry him. And she and her husband were like, oh, that sucks, we wanted to get married, so they're mad about that, right? And then Federico comes in, and it's actually his sister Beatrice who's trying to get his money. So she's dressed up as him, and so this whole plot comes from like the confusion and like trying to like get something like out of the death of Federico. And then Florindo, Beatrice's lover, meets Truffaldino, the Arlecchino character, and he wants Truffaldino to become his servant now. And Truffaldino, in his like illogical, like his progression of thought is like, I could just become a servant of two masters, which is like the whole plot of the play. So yeah. Alright, so I'm going to be actually doing the moment where Truffaldino realizes that he can be the servant of two masters, and it's a whole thought process that goes on for him, like because he's not like a normal like person. He's thinking, oh, this isn't possible, and then he's like, actually, I could do it, and he has like different ways of like showing his progression of thought through his voice, but also like his insane body movements. So the whole scene, the whole moment is like you can see the progression of him thinking out his plan, which is going to go wrong. It's not foolproof. So yeah. All right. So in this moment, I'm going to be trying to embody Arlecchino. So I'm going to show his like different like statures that he does, different poses. I'm going to do as much of his acrobatic movements as I possibly can. He gets like really happy, and then he shows that he like dances or something. Like whenever he feels something, he feels it big, and he shows that through his body. And because you're wearing a mask, you can't really show it any other way. He also has like very silly like interactions with himself. Like for a perfect example, he'll just be sitting there and he'll tap his own shoulder and react to it, like because he's just like a very silly and like he's not a real life person. Like he's a very comedic character. That kind of logic I'll be trying to show that in my scene, and yeah.
What luck I have! Many men look in vain for a master, and I find but two in a single day. What luck! Whatever am I going to do? No. Oh, this is horrible. What luck I have. What am I going to do? Aha! No, that's crazy. I got it! No. Well. But why not? Insolence! Actually, it's not a bad idea. Why don't I work for the both of them? I get twice the reward, twice the money, and twice the food and drink. It's a quite good idea. But what if they should find out? What then? If one should find out, I shall go to the other. 'Tis a quite good plan indeed. And if it should last but a day, I swear I will do it. Off to the post office for both of them. That was the wrong way!
And the end. Alright, so what can I take away from this research? So I really enjoyed working with a mask, and that really affects the movements of Arlecchino, because like when you have a mask on, like I said earlier, you don't really have that whole portion of your emotional like medium to work with. So like it's like losing like a sense. You have to just like rely on the other ones more. So it's been really interesting for me to work with. This actually really reminds me of Jacques Lecoq's style of theater, where he would have a neutral mask, which means that the actors don't have their face at all to work with. So they just have to like show that the different like emotions and purpose of the play through their body movement, which is very similar, except for with Jacques Lecoq's style of theater, it's typically not very like comedically based. It can be, but very like much rarer. Commedia is like hugely based in comedy. They're very silly characters, especially with Arlecchino. So, yeah. I really enjoyed like going through this like process, and I think I've gained a lot from it. I really enjoyed like working with the mask in such a way and having such a silly character. I've worked with restoration comedy before, and it's very like outlandish characters, but not really in that way before. It's like very silly, and like kids can like laugh at this on like restoration comedy apparently. Yeah, it's very like, silly, and it was fun to work with and very interesting and influential to me. And yeah.